Stay focused. So
I'll stay
who
focused.
are you taking to win it all this season? The Cubs or your favorite, the Field?
The Field, of course, especially in
His
baseball.
friend, the
If it
Field.
was the NBA, in the NBA, beginning of the season, I'll take the Warriors. I'll stick with the Warriors against the Field all day. Because in the NBA, the best team wins. And I think I know it's the Warriors from the beginning of the season. But in the NFL, Major League Baseball, the college tournament, one and done? No, the best team doesn't always win. And when you look at these odds, 7-2, they're not 7-2 favorites against the Field. They're 7-2 underdogs. They're the odds-on favorite, but they're 7-2 against. In other words, they're 3.5 to 1. The Field is favored over them. Now, why is that? Well, let's take last year, 100-win team. I mean, they were a juggernaut last year, right? And they were destined to do it. And it took an extra innings, rain delay in Game 7 to squeak by Cleveland by the skin of their teeth. That's how they win the World Series. And then that team, who has to hope that they're as good again this year as they were last year, even though there's largely they return the same team, but it's never exactly the same team, that squeaks by Cleveland is just going to be favored over the Field. Of course you take the Field over the Cubs. Nothing against the Cubs, but in baseball, you always take the Field. And by the way, the Dodgers are due. Clayton Kershaw's due one of these years to have a good postseason, or like a Clayton Kershaw regular season in the postseason. And when that happens, the Dodgers will win the whole thing. And I'm going to say that's going to happen this year.
First of all, you're wrong, and here's why. When you think about the Dodgers, for example, you brought up the
Dodgers.
Dodgers. Your argument just went right out the window because you brought up the Dodgers. Do you realize that in the preseason game, they had Kershaw pitching into the 6th inning? Why would you do that? Why would you do that? I mean, this is what they do. This is what they do. I'm almost sounding like I'm talking about the Cowboys.
They got to stretch out his arm, get him ready for the regular season.
Listen, man. Listen. In that, you too can appreciate this. In that Southern California heat, when this brother goes on the hill and he gives you 6 strong innings or what have you, and you gotta lead, pull him, rest him, pace him for later on in the season. They don't do it, and the next thing you know, he always gets hurt or he's always fatigued. It's why Bochy's one of the best managers in the game in San Francisco, because Bumgarner's usually ready. Kershaw usually tires out regardless of how prolific
That's a good point.
he is, and that's a problem. Now, I would take the Field if I could trust the Mets. My problem is the Mets are injury prone. Matz is already down. I don't know about Harvey. I love the fact that Zach Wheeler is there. You know I believe in Thor Syndergaard, the brothers big time. I got love for the Mets, but I'm wondering whether or not they could be healthy.
What you just said, though, those are 4 power arms.
Listen, I don't trust their health. I'm not talking about their skill set. I don't trust their health. You cannot argue about that because you know how injury prone they are. So now we got this. So it comes down to the Cubs, and we're looking at San Francisco, and we'll pay a little attention to the Mets. We can't ignore the Nationals with Bryce Harper. We certainly can't ignore the St. Louis Cardinals, even though I don't think their lineup is that big time. I think that they're going to struggle, even though they're a class organization. I got the Cubs coming out of the NL. We look at the AL. No doubt that the Indians should be favored. They should have won the World Series last year. They got a crew coming back with some additional modifications that they made. In the end, we look at the Red Sox. We look at obviously Cleveland. We got to pay attention not so much to the Angels, but maybe the Texas Rangers, maybe Seattle, since Robinson Cano left the Yankees to get $240 million. Maybe we'll see Seattle in the postseason. But in the end, what it comes down to is this. The Cubs are the best team. And when I look at Lackey and I look at Arrieta and I look at Lester and these boys, I got to pay attention to that. Then I look at their lineup. How many teams, usually on the corners in Rizzo and Bryant, they don't have good players? They have Hall of Famers. We're talking about potentially all-time greats, even with their youth, with Rizzo and Bryant. You got Addison Russell, you got Baez that can do some things, you got Schwarber as your leadoff. I'm sorry.
A lot of teams have offense on the corners. I look for the teams with offense up the middle. And by the way, don't sleep on San Francisco. You brought them up. Sabian's done a job there. The same guy who was the head of scouting for the Yankees when they came up with the core 4 and Bernie Williams and all those guys. Buster Posey, Bumgarner. Those are future Hall of Famers who are also money players.
Here's the deal. You're not wrong, but here's what I think you're missing. There comes a moment in time where you just sense it. Your time is up. You're going to be very good. You know, it's like
the Giants.
You know what I think about the Giants? The Spurs. You're going to be formidable. You're there. You're good. You'll be a threat.
But their MO has been on again, off again.
I know that. But this
hangover, though. Last team to repeat was the Yankees.
Let me tell you. I'm not worried about that. Let me tell you why. Because when I think about the Cubs, You had to play with that proverbial monkey on your back, that 108-year curse. That has been lifted. Now you playing freestyle.
Allow me to do some math.
Whatsoever. And I'm just of the
Nothing
mindset.
to lose.
Allow me to do some
Everything
math,
to gain.
okay?
With
Let's
that
talk about
talent.
probability.
Okay.
Let's say you're right and the
Let's
Cubs
do
are
it.
clearly the best team in baseball. And if push come to shove, I would say, yes, the Cubs are the best team in baseball. By a marginal amount, they're probably the best.
And this is what Arrieta's struggling in the latter part of the season last year.
And they have youth. Maybe they are actually ascending. Maybe they're actually better than their record showed last year. Imagine that.
Okay.
Let's say they are 60% likely to win their first series in the playoffs. We're assuming they get to the playoffs. And they're 60% likely to win the NLCS. That makes them, in total, 36% likely to get to the World Series. Let's say they're 60% likely. You have to keep multiplying. In other words, they are real underdogs against the field, which is why the odds say they're 3.5 to 1 against. They're 7 to 2, means 3.5 to 1 underdogs to repeat as champions, because even if you're the favorites in every series, you're underdogs to go all the way.
But I'm not interested in a synopsis along those lines like I graduated from MIT or something. I respect where you're coming from. I really do. But here's why I disagree with that kind of narrative. Because then you need to be able to tell me who has a better chance. And that's what I'm looking at. No. I'm saying, I know you're taking a field, but I'm saying to you that ultimately you play one opponent at a time. Ultimately, you got to go against the dudes. I'm not saying that you're wrong, because I understand. You're basically saying I got the whole league and you picking one team. I got that.
In a league where the best team don't always win.
Yeah, and I'm saying to you, I'm not refuting that. What I'm saying to you is that ultimately you got to step up and you got to go against me if I'm the Cubs. And I don't see any team out there outside of maybe the Indians or San Fran on a big-time run. I don't see any team out there that I believe can take them out. I think the Mets are their kryptonite, but I don't expect the Mets to be healthy.
In a short series, what we've seen is not just great power arms, but money pitchers. I don't know if there's such a thing as clutch hitting.
Right.
That's a big debate. I know there's such thing as clutch pitching. I've seen it too often in my life. I can show you pitchers who consistently get better in the playoffs. I mean, that happens, right? And we've seen money pitchers. All you need is two of them for a postseason run that can beat a superior team. We've seen the Giants do that several times. And my point about the Dodgers is, one of these years, Clayton Kershaw ain't going through his whole career without having one great postseason. I'm saying it's this year.
West Coast Max, we know.
Kershaw is big time. I got love for him. He's a superstar. I get it, but I don't like the way he's been used. And as it pertains to the Mets, you got night games at Citi Field. What the hell is wrong with these people? It's cold with that water coming off the flushing it off.
You and the weather, you and the West
Listen,
Coast.
that affects you with baseball, man. It affects you. It's not wise. It's not wise. It's not an accident that the Cubs have them damn day games. They know what they're doing.
I like that we got some baseball on the show. This was fun. Coming up, Russell Athletic.